Let us begin. I've spent the majority of today, perhaps even the vast majority, working on this script for our video challenging Alex O'Connor's views on consciousness. I had to put it to rest. All this panpsychism that we've been talking about. I think it's time to finally give the full rundown. So we could walk through this right now. I don't know if anyone would care for that. And I do want to change a lot of U's to we's. We got a long one here. So hopefully it's going to be like a true video essay. Like it'll actually be a decently long video. Hopefully maybe I'm looking at the camera or something like that. We'll see. But it should have a lot of good stuff in here. Like this is both an opportunity to teach a lot of stuff. Yo, Energy Dompter, what's good? And then also it's an opportunity to actually make the case. Yo, Ion Tayun. I need to I might need the phonetics for that one. Suggestions. Sure. Though I need to finish up this script for a video I want to make now. This video essay challenging Alex O'Connor's views on consciousness. So if anyone's interested, we could go through that. Yeah, I could probably just throw this in here. Where was this? This was there. Okay. But yeah, feel free to fire. And then I have a summary section. So I'm gonna which needs a little work. So we can go through this whole thing. What did Abraham Maslow propose is the hierarchy of human needs? Didn't we is this Maslow's hierarchy? Okay, we did something similar to this, but is this like the Maslow? Or am I thinking of something else? Let us run it. Propose the hierarchy of human needs, a motivational theory that organizes human needs into 5 levels, usually depicted as a pyramid. All right. According to Maslow, individuals are motivated to fulfill basic needs before. Okay. So this is the usual Maslow's hierarchy that people know of, right? So physiological needs. So this is actually this is a good point or a good time to bring this up, because we talk about homeostasis now. Homeostasis is now a temple topic on this channel. So this idea that our body is maintaining some sort of regulation. It's regulating many systems within it, making sure that we're not dying and that we're staying within a good level. So obviously this is happening at a physiological level, but then as we have become more, as our brains become more complex, this can become slightly more abstract. So, we can consider it whether or not we're safe using our understanding, our memory, our context, our ability to consider the future, etc. So, yeah, I guess Maslow's hierarchy does operate for humans, though. So even this type of thing, we could consider like, oh, I feel hungry or whatnot. That said, yeah, it's just interesting to lay these out. Okay, then safety needs, then love and belonging needs. So it's kind of interesting that we could actually make a hierarchy of these, and we see that like certain drives are more or less important for us. So this is actually, you know what? This is this is really important for part 3, right? This is right there. Because we're going to have to touch on that. We're going to have to talk about the, like when we're defining what we're looking for in part 3, so like a life that feels meaningful and emotionally rewarding, we're going to have to consider this type of hierarchy, because, you know, this is a document, or this is a curriculum, or whatever we want to think about it. This is something that can work for any individual regardless of what situation they're in. So they might be dealing with different levels of this. So yeah, we can't assume that people are, you know, just simply privileged enough to be well fed. Obviously safety, okay, love and belonging. Esteem, these include self-esteem, recognition, respect, and the sense of accomplishment. So a lot of these were actually covered by the self-determination theory. So a sense of direction, like you are doing things in your life, like you actually have control, could probably be captured by self-esteem and perhaps even accomplishment. Though accomplishment wasn't necessary for self-determination theory, I think it was, at least for the first part, I think it was literally that you just realize you're doing something that you are trying to do. It could even be you're failing, but like you're still operating and doing things along that road. But then the second part of self-determination theory was that aspect of going a little past what you believe is your capacity. So like a little bit of challenge, and that's where the sense of accomplishment probably comes in. But then the third part was the recognition and respect, the aspect that you are, like what you are doing here is being recognized. So self-actualization needs. So perhaps it touches into this. But yeah, what would be the difference between self-actualization and esteem? Realizing one's full potential, personal growth, creativity, and purpose. All right, let's, it seems like self-determination theory is captured by level 4 of the hierarchy. I'm trying to understand then what the difference between number 4 and number 5 is. Using the hierarchy to assess and improve your situation, you can use Maslow's framework as a diagnostic and developmental tool, assess your current level, prioritize needs logically, align values with needs, create action steps, reevaluate periodically. So let me just put this in here first. We should consider the framing of Maslow's hierarchy, and perhaps the practical tools that come with it. The framing and empirical grounding. That is a great question. I agree. Oh, are you talking about this one, or I think Energy Dompter's original question is also pretty great. All right. Thank you. All right, let's let it rip. I'm kind of curious. Oh, nice. To notice that Maslow's esteem level overlaps conceptually with self-determination theory, which emphasizes competence, autonomy, and relatedness as core psychological needs. But the key difference lies in the source and orientation of motivation at each level. Okay. At level 4, esteem needs primary focus, achievement, recognition, respect from self and others, building confidence through external validation and personal accomplishment. So earning a promotion or a degree, receiving praise or acknowledgement for work, gaining status or reputation. The nature of motivation is ego-based and extrinsic. Esteem needs are often tied to how others perceive you or to measurable successes. So it's really weighted on the recognition aspect, right? Like I feel like it's discounting the fact that you would have to conceptualize what's happening as accomplishment and not just it's not just you being told that what you're doing is an accomplishment. You must actually believe it. Even internal self-esteem tends to depend on meeting standards that are socially or personally defined. Psychological function builds self-worth and competence, laying the foundation for higher motivation. But satisfaction at this level can be fragile, depending on outcomes, achievements, or others' opinions. All right, and then, we lost it. We're going to have to re-roll. Self-actualization at level 5, primary focus, realizing your fullest potential, becoming who you are, uniquely capable of being, driven by intrinsic motivation. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of implies that only recognition's handled by this one, but self-directedness as well as the challenge and moving beyond your capacities seems to come down to 5. Basically comes down to that level 5. You don't need the opinion of others. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of odd to make that type of disconnection, because I feel like you always need the opinion of others, and you also always need to kind of believe the other aspects of level 4. Like you have to be convinced by other people. Or at least that seems to be implied. So let's jump to level 5 again. Self-actualization. This level moves beyond validation or success. It's about expressing one's full potential and authenticity, doing something because it is inherently meaningful, not because it earns approval or status. Intrinsic motivation, integration, creativity and growth, exploring new possibilities, not for external reward, but for fulfillment. Keywords: meaning, authenticity, creativity, purpose, growth. Connecting. Okay, so this is the connection that I think we want to make. That is my view as well. It comes down to the thin line of, are you trying to prove yourself to others or prove to yourself, right? I hope this was yeah. No, that was valuable and well timed. Just based on the other stuff that I've been thinking about recently. All right, self-determination theory proposes that optimal human functioning depends on the satisfaction of 3 innate psychological needs: autonomy, acting with a sense of volition and self-endorsement. In our document, this is handled by part 1. Competence, feeling effective and capable. This is something that we can gain in part 2. And then relatedness, feeling connected with others. That one, I guess you kind of have to... I guess we talk about it in part 1, 2, and 3. But you kind of have to just do this one. Same with all of them. You kind of have to do it. You have to apply the stuff we talk about in the document. All right, self-determination need. Relatedness, level 3. Okay, both concern social connection, love, and belonging. Okay, yeah, so that is kind of captured there. Competence. Esteem involves feeling effective and capable. Yeah, so this is where I would disagree here, where the competence that I think is related to self-determination theory is one in which you are even surpassing your moral capabilities or your like ultimate, your fundamental feeling of purpose. Like you are surpassing that level of what you think you can do. Where's the video essay? It's not out yet, but I've got the I whipped this thing up today and yesterday. We got 13 pages of challenging Alex O'Connor's views on consciousness. So we could talk about that if you guys want me to. I could read through that right now. I should do a read through before I actually film it. I guess I could film it tomorrow, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, autonomy. The movement from self-esteem to self-actualization reflects increasing autonomy, doing what one freely chooses because it expresses the self. Okay. Yeah, once we actually go into Maslow's hierarchy, I'm curious what the grounding is of those different the different levels of the hierarchy. Where title Alex O'Connor is wrong. Alex O'Connor doesn't understand consciousness. Title Alex O'Connor, the biggest internet grifter. Yeesh. I don't want to be too crazy here. I want to make it, compelling maybe, but not too combative. Energy Dom turrets, the whole discussion of panpsychism. I could actually, you know what? It might be hard to find the clip that spawned this whole thing. How easy is this going to be to find?
Which?
Oh, here we go. I'm already queued up.
Literally quite attracted to. It's extremely strange. So, there's a view that I'm quite attracted to in the philosophy of mind called panpsychism, which literally means sort of like the view that consciousness is everywhere or in everything. It doesn't mean that everything is conscious. It doesn't mean this pen is conscious. What it means is that the stuff that the universe is made out of, so the fundamental matter of the universe, has at least mental properties, or might be mental properties. Because when you say, for example, we're in a world of like molecules in motion, right? Mm-hmm. I understand that sentiment. But if you ask a scientist, what is stuff actually made out of? Ultimately speaking, they will not be able to tell you.
For you personally, what makes your life full of purpose and meaning?
I can't just.
All right, I think it goes off the rails now, but that's what we're responding to, essentially. Yeah, so the introduction, he's got another clip, I guess, that says, I think the most plausible account of consciousness implies that consciousness is something which is sort of received by the biological organism rather than produced by it. Then I say, while this view is philosophically intriguing, I believe it's a speculative leap. In this video, I'll argue that contemporary neuroscience provides a more plausible, evidence-based explanation for consciousness, one that's grounded in our biology, evolution, and the fundamental need for survival. And then I have to say this so that Alex doesn't think I'm going after him, because I actually do want to collab with Alex. I have a lot of respect for Alex and his work, and this video is a challenge in that same spirit. I would love to collaborate with Alex in the future, and I think I'd have just the idea for a fun joint video, which I mentioned the other day. All right, problems of consciousness. Okay, let's first discuss the context here, why consciousness is so hard to pin down. The hard problem of consciousness is the question of why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective first-person experience. It's not about what the brain does, but what it feels like from the inside. The central challenge from a purely materialistic view is explaining how and why subjective first-person experience could ever arise from a completely non-conscious physical matter like neurons. How do you get the feeling of redness or the sound of a C sharp from a bunch of electrochemical signals? To panpsychists, this jump from non-conscious stuff to... Actually, we could just cut that. I don't want to introduce panpsychism yet. What do you want to collaborate with Alex O'Connor on? I want to make a video called... Actually, I don't know what it would be called, but it would basically be, what's it called? what's the layers of hell? Dante's Inferno? Yeah. I want to do Dante's Inferno with logical fallacies. So we basically make a tier list of which are like the worst, like what are the worst sins of logical fallacies, basically. Like we would make that type of hierarchy, and it wouldn't just be just like ranking like these logical fallacies. We'd have to go in and really think about what would make a logical fallacy more or less fallacious or you know, pragmatically destructive in a conversation. Like which logical fallacies like pretty much just end the conversation or end the utility of the conversation. You want to make an iceberg, perhaps? That category is more popular. I want to make an iceberg. What? There's a category of icebergs? Or is an iceberg? Is iceberg a type of tier list? Philosophy iceberg. Yo, what is going on here? Oh, this is. Wait, so which one's more based? Is it stuff at the top or when you keep going down to the bottom? Understanding Hegel. God is a lobster. Oh no. I think the bottom, like the deep web. Okay, so the more down you go, the weirder it gets, right? But like, which one's the more based, you know? Is elite tier Gnostic? Is there only one? Okay, so like, do people do this then? They take this and they'll go make another one? Like, is this a common thing other people have done? Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah, so we could. I don't think we would do an iceberg because I don't think any of the logical fallacies are based. So it would be a different type of tier list we're making of like which of these are most inappropriate to do in a conversation or in a debate, in a discussion. Which logical fallacies just like literally take you out of reality, like you are like which ones are actually just bad faith by definition, which ones could be in good faith but perhaps just a mess up, things like that. Stuff at the top. Straw man, like straw man is very much understandable. Like I can empathize with a straw man. It's really just you know, a straw man's usually you just don't understand the argument. But if you knowingly are making a straw man, now that's something else. So yeah, we'd have to. I think the fun would be to make the criteria for how we would rank them. The Bible doesn't contradict itself. Elite gnosis. The idea is that the deeper you go, the less known it is, or the more obscure. You're saying with the. Oh, what's going on here? Trolley problem. All right, what's at the bottom here? Nothing I understand. Ben Shapiro is the real author of. Okay, what the heck? What is this? Of 2024. So I'm guessing they vote on this every year. Yo, what is happening? You possibly. Misery. All right. This is scaring me. That is a big one. Perhaps the Dante's Inferno thing is more appropriate. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anyone do a Dante's Inferno of anything, so, you know, Layers of Hell seems pretty fun. I think it kind of matches up pretty nicely. All right, in contrast, the easy problems of consciousness refer to the objective functional aspects of the brain that we can study and explain through scientific methods like neuroscience and cognitive psychology. These problems are easy only in the sense that we have a clear scientific path to solving them, even if they are incredibly complex. The easy problems include explaining how the brain processes sensory information from the environment, integrates that information to control behavior, focuses attention on specific stimuli, and distinguishes between being awake and sleep. Essentially, the easy problems are about mapping conscious functions to neural correlates. Solving them means we can explain how the brain's mechanisms work. However, even a complete solution to all the easy problems wouldn't answer the hard problem, why these mechanisms are accompanied by a subjective conscious experience in the first place. So then we go through the panpsychist view. The theory of panpsychism avoids the magic leap from non-conscious matter to conscious experience by positing that consciousness is a fundamental property of matter itself, not something that emerges only in complex brains. So then I play that same clip that we just watched. As Alex describes, this theory doesn't suggest that a rock or a pen is thinking complex thoughts. Instead, it presupposes that the most basic building blocks of the universe, like electrons or quarks, possess an incredibly simple, rudimentary form of experience, sometimes called proto-consciousness. According to this view, the rich, complex consciousness of a human or animal is built up from these fundamental conscious components, much like a living organism is built from non-living atoms. Okay, so physics describes the behavior of matter, what matter does and how its parts relate to each other, but physics does not tell us what matter is. Panpsychism proposes that what matter is, intrinsically, is a rudimentary form of consciousness. By proposing that the building blocks of the universe were never truly non-conscious to begin with, panpsychism avoids the difficult task of explaining how subjective experience could magically arise from completely non-conscious matter. Alex further explains a compelling account of panpsychism through the filter theory, championed by thinkers like William James and Aldous Huxley, which provides the primary mechanism for the panpsychist worldview. It proposes that the brain is not a generator of consciousness, but a receiver or reducing valve. I should just say a filter of it. The theory posits that a vast universal consciousness, what Huxley calls mind at large, exists independently of our brains. We can intuit this. Maybe I was thinking, yeah, we should probably write something there. We could intuit this from just the vast nature of our experience. To prevent us from being overwhelmed by this infinite reality, the brain's evolutionary function is to filter and limit this universal consciousness, allowing only a tiny practical sliver of information that is necessary for survival to enter our awareness. This model elegantly reframes our existence. We are not isolated minds creating consciousness from nothing, but participants in a much broader conscious reality. Proponents argue that some scientific findings are better explained by the filter theory than by a production model. As Alex mentions, most compelling evidence comes from studies of psychedelics. Perhaps is now that's a big one. Okay, that seems about right, to be completely honest. All right, fair enough. Yeah, I'm trying to build the steel man. I don't want to straw man this argument. So let's continue with the steel man. Research has shown that powerful mystical experiences, often described as an expansion of consciousness or ego death, frequently correlate with a decrease in brain activity in key neural hubs like the default mode network. This presents a paradox for the production model. How can a richer, more expansive conscious experience arise from less brain activity? So I just want to put in here, I say production model a couple times. We need to explain what this means. So I'll do that later. Maybe I should be doing to do so that I could find these easier. The filter theory offers a straightforward explanation. These substances do not create new consciousness. They simply inhibit the brain's filtering mechanism. By temporarily shutting down the reducing valve, they allow a greater... let's get away from this reducing valve. I feel like that just makes it more complicated. What is they? These substances. Oh, okay. They allow a greater torrent of the universal consciousness to flow into our awareness, resulting in a profoundly altered and expanded subjective experience. This suggests the brain's normal function is not to create consciousness, but to constrain it. All right. Why panpsychism is so compelling. Panpsychism is incredibly compelling because it offers an elegant, intuitive, and spiritually resonant solution to one of philosophy's deepest mysteries. Beyond just addressing the hard problem, it aligns with profound intuition. Many people have subjective experiences, whether through meditation, psychedelics, or moments of profound awe in nature, where the boundary between self and world seems to dissolve, and the universe itself feels alive and aware. Panpsychism provides a philosophical framework that validates these powerful intuitions. For someone who has had an ego-death experience on a psychedelic, the idea that their individual mind simply tuned into a broader universal consciousness feels far more real and less delusory than the notion that their brain just produced a complex hallucination. Panpsychism aligns seamlessly with many spiritual and religious traditions that have existed for millennia. Also, concepts like a universal mind, a divine consciousness, or the Hindu idea of Brahman, a single ultimate reality, which Dr. K discusses in this discussion, are philosophical cousins to panpsychism, or of panpsychism. It offers a modern metaphysical language for ancient spiritual beliefs, creating a potential bridge for those who are scientifically minded but feel that a purely materialistic worldview is incomplete and fails to account for their spiritual experiences. It allows for a reality where both scientific laws and transcendent, all-pervading consciousness can coexist. All right, that's what we got. So this is the alternative framework that I have been immersed in for the past little while. Okay, now I will pivot to an alternative framework. While panpsychism starts from what we don't know, we can approach the hard problem with what we do know. We can look to contemporary empirical evidence from biology, evolution, and clinical neuroscience to build an explanation from the ground up. I'm going to be following a theory of consciousness pioneered by neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, as described in his book, The Strange Order of Things. And I think I just, for my own sake, I needed to write down this whole argument just so that I like, just for an exercise in learning, because I feel like I've had it internalized, and I've tried to just explain it on stream multiple times. So here we go. Damasio explains a fundamental imperative that arose from evolution, the imperative for a living system to actively manage its internal state to stay alive and eventually to flourish. This concept, conceptualized as homeostasis, applies to every living organism, from a single cell to complex human beings. The evolutionary development of homeostasis. All right, so homeostasis is the constant automatic process of regulating an organism's internal state to keep it within the narrow range that allows for life. Think of it as a biological imperative to maintain balance, not too hot, not too cold, with just the right amount of energy. For a simple-celled organism, this was an unconscious chemical process. It directly sensed chemical gradients, automatically moving towards nutrients and away from toxins, without any awareness whatsoever. At this stage, the process is purely mechanical and chemical. There are no feelings or awareness involved, simply an automatic response to environmental stimuli that either supports or threatens the organism's integrity. A significant evolutionary leap occurred with the development of the nervous system. This allowed organisms to create and transmit internal maps or representations of their own body states. These weren't pictures in a mind, they were neural patterns that corresponded to a state of affairs, allowing for a faster, more coordinated response. Fleeing, hiding, all in the service of maintaining homeostasis. With a nervous system, the condition of the body's tissues and chemical balance could be monitored and represented in the brain. This internal mapping gave rise to feelings. Damasio argues that feelings are the mental experiences of the body's state of homeostasis, not yet conscious, but nevertheless instrumental prerequisites for our conscious experience. A neutral signal for tissue damage became the urgent, impossible to ignore feeling of pain. A signal for low glucose became the driving feeling of hunger. A signal for optimal physiological balance became a satisfying feeling of well-being. These homeostatic feelings provided a tremendous evolutionary advantage. Instead of merely reacting to the environment, organisms could now have an internal guide that motivated them to seek out beneficial situations and avoid harmful ones. Finally, with the development of more complex brain structures like the neocortex, these raw feelings were integrated into the rich experience we call consciousness. Damasio proposes this happened in stages. It began with what we've so far discussed, a non-conscious moment-by-moment neural map of the body's internal state. From this foundation, the brain created mappings of the feelings themselves, allowing humans to have rudimentary thoughts about feelings. A momentary, nonverbal sense of self in the here and now emerged, a sense of self that could own these feelings. This is the genesis of what we would intuit as primitive subjective experience, the basic sense that it is you experiencing the warmth of the sun or the pang of hunger. Ultimately, as memory, language, and imagination developed, this process culminated in consciousness as we intuit it today, which is unique to humans in its complexity. By leveraging memory and foresight, the brain built an autobiographical self, the I that owns its experiences. I am hungry, I am in pain. This is the level that allows for incredibly sophisticated responses. Instead of just reacting to hunger, a conscious human can remember where food was yesterday, plan for a hunt for tomorrow, and even invent agriculture to ensure food for generations. Yes, it makes perfect sense to me. Great. Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to also read this through just to see if this makes sense. Like if this is a compelling line of argument. So please let me know. Right. It's not a contradiction yet. Yep. Once I'm done going through this whole this alternative, I actually have them butt heads in a few ways. Just like you try to put it in a coherent way to make it more yep. So yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of people watching this are going to feel the same way. And when I say a lot of people watching this, I'm just assuming that it gets views. We'll see. But yeah, let's continue because this is fun stuff. According to Damasio, consciousness wasn't a mysterious force that was added on top. It evolved as a highly sophisticated tool for homeostasis. It's an emergent biological solution that helped and continues to help an organism regulate its internal state and survive. It isn't something our brain receives, it's something our brain does, and reasonably so. So intuitive examples, this is where the theory becomes incredibly intuitive. Consider how a paper cut on your finger commands your conscious attention. Your brain creates a feeling of pain that motivates you to find a Band-Aid. Consider why you feel a knot of anxiety when you think about a future confrontation. Your brain is signaling a potential threat to your well-being, and the conscious feeling of anxiety is a powerful motivator to prepare or avoid that threat. If you're sympathetic to Damasio's theory of consciousness, would you be willing to ask ChatGPT what is Zizek's criticism of Damasio's theory of subjectivity? Yes, absolutely. Let's do it maybe here, but let's do it once we're done. At least just go. Let's do it once we're done going through just that part or this part. All right, beyond survival, the homeostasis of flourishing. To paint an even more comprehensive and intuitive picture of how homeostasis operates in our own lives, we can point out that homeostasis isn't merely about not dying. It is also about thriving. I was thinking while saying not dying, I would flash a little picture of what's his face? Who's the don't die guy? I don't know. Whatever that guy's name is, I'll flash a picture. It's also about thriving An organism constantly on the brink of death is fragile. Evolution favors organisms that build a buffer and ultimately flourish. For example, achieve abundant energy, low stress, strong social bonds, etc. This is where positive feelings come in. The joy of a good meal, the comfort of social connection, the satisfaction of achieving a difficult goal. These aren't just pleasant distractions. This is pretty weak. They are the conscious markers of a body in a state of optimal homeostatic regulation. They are the brain's way of telling us this is good for our well-being, do more of this, driving us towards states that offer more than just survival, but genuine well-being, theoretically. Because, obviously today we kind of overdose on these things. So, learning and adaptation. Furthermore, we can easily intuit how our ability to learn and adapt contributes to this overarching framework. Learning is the ultimate tool for enhancing homeostasis. While a simple organism relies on fixed instinctual responses, an organism that can learn can adapt its behavior to new environments and unpredictable challenges. An animal that gets sick from a certain berry learns to avoid it. One that finds a hidden spring of water remembers its location. This ability to learn from experience provides a massive survival advantage, allowing an organism to build a predictive model of its world that is far more sophisticated than genetics alone could provide. For humans, this ability is multifaceted. We don't just learn from direct trial and error, we learn from observing each other and, most powerfully, by passing knowledge down through generations. This cumulative process of learning is what allowed us to move from mere survival to true flourishing, inventing tools, developing agriculture, and creating medicine. To ground this, our brain and broader nervous system are constantly being rewired by our experiences through a process called neuroplasticity. At the neurobiological level, emotions are the engine of learning. Experiences that evoke strong feelings, good or bad, trigger the release of neuromodulators like acetylcholine and dopamine, which signal to the brain that something important has just happened. For negative experiences, like touching a hot stove, the intense feeling of pain creates a powerful memory. The neural circuits connecting the site of the stove to the painful consequence are strengthened, ensuring you automatically avoid it in the future. For positive experiences, like solving a difficult puzzle, the feeling of satisfaction floods the brain with reward signals. This reinforces the neural pathways that led to the solution, making you more likely to use that strategy again. This process of emotionally driven learning is constant. It happens both unconsciously as your body learns new motor skills through practice, and consciously as your subjective understanding of the world is updated with new facts and insights. Learning and adaptation isn't only relevant at the individual level, it scales up to entire societies through culture. Humans evolved complex cultures with art, ethics, and social structures because they provide a powerful framework for the homeostatic regulation of the group. A cohesive, cooperative society is far more resilient than a collection of individuals. We can even understand the co-evolution of our biology and culture through the lens of the Baldwin effect, which describes a feedback loop where learned behaviors can influence the direction of evolution. For example, when a group develops a more effective culture, one with better hunting techniques or stronger social bonds, that group as a whole gains a significant survival advantage. Over generations, individuals within that group who have a slight genetic disposition for the skills needed to thrive in that culture, for example, better communication or cooperation, are more likely to survive and reproduce. In this way, our culture literally began to shape our biology, and our biology co-evolved to better support our culture. Our deepest drives for connection, meaning, and morality are, from this perspective, rooted in the biological imperative to create a thriving, stable environment. All right, so hammering it home, the conscious driver of homeostasis. So let's hammer this home with one more crucial point. Our conscious experience is not a passive reception or filtering of an innate or outside signal, but an active driver of homeostasis. To make this intuitively clear, we could point out how attention fundamentally directs our homeostatic mechanisms. Our attentional networks are the brain's mechanisms for highlighting information. When you consciously focus your attention, whether on a physical sensation like your breath, an intellectual problem, or a motor skill like playing guitar, you are initiating a cascade of top-down signals. First, these signals release neuromodulators that act like a sensitivity dial, making neurons more excitable and responsive. This is the biological reason why focusing on a sensation, like your feet pushing down on the floor, actually makes it feel more vivid and detailed in consciousness. In conscious awareness. I could just say consciousness, I think. Second, as we just discussed, this heightened activation strengthens the neural connections involved. This is the physical basis of neuroplasticity, and it affects the trajectory of our skills, understanding, aspirations, addictions, and of course, our internal systems. Attention is the bridge between our subjective, conscious will and the physical machinery of our body. It's the process by which we subjectively experience and therefore direct our own homeostatic regulation. So that's pretty much just pointing out how consciousness is both a result of, but also a contributor towards this homeostatic process, just all the mechanisms that are in our brain and body. So this is so we go even deeper here. Okay, now if you'll indulge me, there's one more crucial rabbit hole we must go down, where the theory moves from merely explaining feelings to comprehensively explaining our experience of meaning and what we consider our understanding. Speaking of this, I had never truly understood the difference between conscience and consciousness. Can one exist without the other? So consciousness is a much more easy to find concept, I'll just say. Like it's pretty intuitive. It's like, as long as you are aware of anything, if you're self-conscious, you can like see what consciousness is. It's this whole experience we have. Conscience, I don't think that has like a clear definition. So I think different people or different religions, etc., talk about conscience in a different way. So philosophers touch on what conscience would be, and like, is it something specifically religious, or is it literally whenever your brain gives you words to put to what you're trying to see or think of? Like when I look at this thing and I see a pen, could I say that's my conscience telling me that this is a pen? And for Heidegger, he would say yes. But for like, a Christian, I think conscience is more of a talking from God, which, people usually intuit to mean a moral telling. Whereas, yeah, you could... Oh my gosh. From fan control? Can a living organism possess consciousness without having a conscience? It depends what we mean by conscience. So, from the science perspective, do animals have either of those? I think that's a good question. What would be so it seems like you need the language processing parts of our brain to really have conscience. The question is, so like we talked about the stages of consciousness that Damasio highlights, and animals probably have some level of like understanding a certain thing that they're seeing, but they don't have a great sense of their self-consciousness. So the question is, it's hard to tell, or it's hard to intuit what that would mean for an animal where they can't think about the thing that's telling them what things are. They would just be experiencing like lake, that's a lake. And perhaps they even have, it's not like, complex language like we do, but perhaps they have certain images in mind when they, see a lake and they feel a certain way, but they wouldn't have enough self-consciousness to consider that something was the source of that very thought. So, yeah, I would say that chances are animals would not have that same type of conscience. But animals do have consciousness from at least Damasio's point of view. Now, granted, we've talked about... Did we make a video of this? Did I make a video of this? there is a branch of philosophy or science that argues that you literally need self-consciousness to have consciousness at all. And this is another question that isn't answered, right? Like I would say it's similar. It's kind of similar to this, where it's more plausible, I think, that like an animal like a chicken has some level of consciousness, and then pragmatically speaking, such that we should consider that when chickens are in bad conditions, they are probably feeling pain, which is now a moral issue. That said, I think it's not like for sure, right? It's the fact that they share very similar parts of the brain that we have, that have a lot to do with emotions and feelings in our brain. So yeah, the real question is like like without the complex neocortex that we have, does that feeling of pain actually get like felt in the same way that we think about it? But I mean, it's still going to drive behavior, but it might not be a feeling like the one that we viscerally understand. But I think it's regardless of whether I think it's plausible to think that chickens do feel pain. But regardless of whether it's unless it's really implausible that they feel pain, I think it's worth the risk. We probably want to assume that they do feel that pain because the ramifications are too high. Kind of like the sequence goes: intelligence, consciousness, emotion, then self-awareness, which is the final step so far. Yeah, emotion though came before consciousness. Like emotion was a prerequisite for consciousness. I think it would be intelligence. It depends what we mean by intelligence. That one's pretty tough to place somewhere. Like I'd imagine when we think about intelligence intuitively, it's actually afforded to us by our emotions. So it'd be like emotion, intelligence, consciousness, and then self-awareness. Right. And we actually kind of get there right now. So yeah, the embodied nature of consciousness. Damasio's model reveals that consciousness is not an isolated product of the brain. It's deeply intertwined with the physiology of our entire body. Homeostasis is a full body coordination, an orchestra of symptoms working in concert. While the nervous system, including the brain proper, the spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves, acts as a master conductor, it is in constant dialogue with other critical systems such as the endocrine system, flooding the body with hormones, the immune system, defending and repairing, and the metabolic system, managing our energy. This connection is a continuous bidirectional stream. Key brain regions like the brainstem and insular cortex are dedicated to sensing the body's internal landscape moment to moment. The brain doesn't just send commands down to the body, it receives a constant, rich flow of information up from the body's visceral and chemical state. This incoming information directly shapes our felt experience, our moods, our energy levels, and our general sense of well-being or malaise. This embodied framework highlights that what meaning actually feels like. It grounds it not in abstract logic, but in visceral, affective evaluation of our well-being. A situation that promises to enhance our well-being feels positive and attracts us. A situation that that threatens it feels negative and repels us. These patterns don't stay confined to the brain. They are distributed across our muscles, posture, breathing, and internal sensations. A threat makes the heart race. A comforting memory can ease tensions in the body. These aren't secondary effects. They are integral parts of how meaning manifests in our experience. So this is where it gets even crazier. The affective aspect of rational thought. This embodied perspective goes even further, suggesting that our most rational thoughts are guided by our broader physiology. Damasio's somatic marker hypothesis explains how the brain uses these felt states to guide our choices. When faced with a decision, our brain rapidly simulates potential outcomes and generates an associated visceral bodily feeling, a somatic marker, for each one. A positive feeling of ease pushes us towards a decision. A negative feeling of unease or alarm pushes us away. This is the neurobiological basis for our gut instincts, revealing how even our most logical decisions are profoundly shaped by the body's wisdom in predicting future states of well-being. This fundamentally challenges the classic intuitive view of a conflict between reason and emotion. The idea that we can make purely logical decisions separate from the messy influence of our feelings is a deeply ingrained but neurobiologically unfounded myth. In this embodied view, our feelings aren't a bug in the system. They're an essential feature that makes effective reasoning possible in the first place. So this is why feeling would come before intelligence. The organism needs to be able to gauge the valence, at least the valence of what they're viewing or what they're encountering. So is the emotion positive or negative is a really important and beneficial signal for an organism. Yo, Dharmadam, what's good? I kind of went crazy mode, and I drafted up a 13-page video essay where I put panpsychism to rest. Maybe we'll see. Maybe this isn't effective. We have to get to the end of this. So the exercise in deliberately doing things now for the sake of affecting what feels rational to us in the future will be a topic that this channel discusses, but not in this video. So this is later part 1 stuff. All right, so we could get even crazier. We can get even more crazy as we further consider the implications of this perspective. If our feelings and decisions are tied to our body's state, what does that mean for our most deeply held beliefs? Then we've got this one link I could play. It's very short.
Which?
At 1:31, 36.
Christianity and see that it starts going haywire.
Yeah, but
nothing to do with
MRI
the
is
truth.
not going to show any beliefs. It
Nothing
shows
to do with the truth of the
neurological
claim.
activity.
Exactly.
Beliefs aren't.
Exactly.
Beliefs aren't in the brain.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in this.
I kind of agree with that.
So Alex,
The fact that he said I kind of agree with that means that it's got to be in this in the response. So from an embodied perspective, he's right in a way. Our understanding of the world isn't just a set of abstract facts stored in our neural architecture. Our beliefs are made aware to us through consciousness, which is itself a product of our entire physiological state. The feeling of certainty about a belief, for example, is merely a feeling, a homeostatic state influenced by everything from our memories and cultural context to our hormones and even the signals coming from our gut. We can consider how memory operates to shape the explicit meanings we think about. Empirical science shows us that memory is an active, reconstructive process. As we discussed, our brain creates a mapping of our experience, and that mapping is stored via neuroplasticity. Then, every time we recall that memory, we aren't just replaying a file from a cabinet, we are actively reconstructing it, reactivating the connections associated with the specific related stimuli. Retrieving a memory makes its underlying neural trace temporarily malleable and open to change, allowing it to be updated with new context or feelings before it's saved again through a process called reconsolidation. Over the long term, this reconstructive process changes our memories. Through a natural process of synaptic pruning, the specific vivid details often fade, leaving behind the core lesson or a more generalized schematic pattern. But crucially, it's not just the factual content that changes. The emotional charge of a memory can also evolve. For example, a traumatic memory through therapy or new life experiences can be recalled with less fear and arousal, even if the facts remain the same. Conversely, a seemingly neutral childhood memory can take on a warm, positive glow as we gain new perspective in adulthood. Here's the vital point. This dynamic process of memory isn't just for remembering past events. It is the fundamental engine that underpins our entire experience and understanding of explicit meaning itself. Every perception, every thought, every gut feeling of intuition is your brain activating a learned neural pattern, a kind of mental blueprint shaped by your past. The meaning you experience in any given moment, whether it's understanding a spoken word, recognizing a social cue, or feeling the importance of an idea, arises as your brain generates your current experience through the lens of these consolidated memory-based patterns. All right. That is kind of going crazy mode. Beliefs are in the brain. Yeah, so I guess, is anything in the brain other than physicality? Is a thought in your brain, or does consciousness just correlate to physicality? Yeah, I think the point that we're trying to make is that, and I think the document does a better job of this than this, this quick video. But the point is that technically our understanding is in the brain via connections, but you don't ever access that understanding. Like it's not like, our understanding is something. Like I have this understanding. If I need to know what I understand, it needs to either come out of me, I need to think about what I understand, or I need to apply it in life, or is it just correlated? Like the connections are in the brain, and the understanding in action, like when I actually, do something with that, it's a product of those connections being activated. So that like results in your connection is a physical thing. Like a connection in your brain is the physical connection between neurons. And then what happens is perhaps the set of connections that corresponds to a pen in my brain, like the exact set doesn't get activated when I'm not thinking about a pen or whatnot. But when I do think about a pen, like that stimuli of the prompt of thinking about a pen or looking at a pen would activate that set of connections, resulting in the subjective experience that I have, whether that is, me thinking about what the pen is or what the properties are, or even when I'm using it, I'm technically like activating motor skills that are also in the brain, in the sense that we could consider that this is why schema theory helps us out. Like schema theory is the idea of how we could think of specific subsets of brain connections as activating schemas, such as like the schema for a pen. I mean, granted, it's much more complicated than this. Like this is kind of a simplifying way to think about it, because it's like, okay, when I'm looking at this pen, am I activating like the pen connections, or am I activating just some connections that, and when I see a different pen, I'm not actually activating the exact same connections, but we could think about there being like a fundamental set of connections that are related to a pen. But the point is, neuroplasticity is always at play. So none of these connections are actually staying the same over time. They're constantly changing, which is why we discuss like the dynamic nature of our conceptual understanding in the document. I would word it like belief is represented in the brain, but I don't think belief is a physical thing. Right. So beliefs are in the brain, right? Yeah, it's hard to say, because like the point I'm trying to make, like the effective point I'm trying to make, is that the connections are in your brain. They are physical. It's such that if I were to, set some clone human up with the same connections and then had the brain start, they would experience the world in the same way that, I would. Like if I clone myself and I've got the same connections there. But like the question is, what is a belief? Because the only way that we can understand understanding, or we can understand a belief, is by reflecting on it. And then what we're getting in consciousness is just this like feeling, this experience of what a thing is. Like, and it manifests to us as words. So like, I understand a pen is something. Like it's kind of like a story, a string of words that can be very insightful representation. Yep. So what I think that like the reason why I need to combat the idea that beliefs aren't in the brain in this sense is that I think they don't think that the actual substance of like their knowledge of what a pen is, they think that that's not in the brain. Like they're acting as if there's something other than brain connections being activated, which is not the case. So perhaps, though, I need to make this more clear, but yeah, let's actually do that. Let's make sure make sure it is clear that we are trying to point out that our understanding, so we make this much more clear in the document as well, that our understanding is like a conceptual thing. Like we're trying to conceptualize what our understanding even is. I mean, we all have like an intuitive sense. I said you sound like Dennett, but I'm trying to still trying to understand your perspective. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so back to this thing. Yeah, in the document, we get to this point where we're like, okay, we know that the brain consists of connections, and that our experience of certain meaning is a result of these connections of certain connections being activated when we're doing things, whether, I'm looking at something, I'm reflecting on something, I'm thinking of a pen while not even looking at it, But then we get to the philosophical problem of considering like how we can make sense of our understanding, like the actual things in our understanding, like the actual concepts. And that's when we get into the whole idea of like, let's think about our conceptual understanding, like what is the nature of the concept of a pen? And this is when we could point out, well, we notice that it has, like when I think about a pen, like what appears to me is like properties, like a pen is this shape and can write. Like that's what people would ask me, what is a pen? That's what I would say. So then that's the discussion we get into the document, but we don't have to do that here. Here I just want to point out that at base, we've got some state of neural connections, and that affords us whatever experience we have. I think it basically comes down to this: how many of our experiences are shaped by an external force versus how many are shaped by our own mind? And the answer is usually 50-50, right? So we are actually in the document. We're getting to the point where I'm about to read the next chapter, the next major section, which talks about this whole thing, this whole entire discussion. So we literally start that major section with a discussion about nature versus nurture. And we just like anywhere else in this document, we go as in depth as we need to go. So the shaping of experience. So I leverage this idea of predisposition, that we are predisposed to experience the world in the certain way that we do, like consciously, at every moment. So like right now, I am predisposed that given this visual stimuli and this feeling of warmth or coldness, and this feeling of me in a chair, and my memory and my mood and my physiology, we could think about what like actually contributes to this predisposition in many different ways. We could think about it through genetics, whether that's my personal genetics or if that's like human genetics. We could think about it through my past and what I've learned and all that stuff. But the idea is that at every moment, this is a very deterministic type of thought process. At every moment, you are predisposed to experience the world in the way that you do, given what you're, like, as you're saying, the 50-50, given the whatever the stimuli from the environment is and the stimuli from your internals. So yeah, that's what we do here. Talk about genetics. We got to talk about epigenetics, which is really important and also is very important for the trajectory of like the development of literally our anatomy, parts of our body, as well as our neurons and which connections are strengthened, etc. Yeah. Talk about temperament, cognitive capacities, affective systems. And then and then this is the transition that leads us into understanding as like the philosophical topic that we can go into. Like, understanding is a privileged aspect of our predisposition because we can literally consider, like, we have direct access seemingly through our conscious awareness of this aspect of our predisposition. I think ultimately the pen doesn't exist, just a concept, like the Matrix. There is no spoon. Yeah, I think like that type of discussion, there's just different ways you could talk about, whether or not a pen exists or not. And I would say that's a valid one. Like, you could make that argument. The question is, what does it mean for the pen to exist? Does it mean, are we talking specifically, is there a set of physical matter such that, when I look at it, I see a pen? Or are we talking about the pen as the experience in my brain? I believe free will is self-evidently, introspectively observable. We have the ability to focus our attention or not on things. So that's Energy Dompter. That's kind of the way that we go in this document. But I point out that experience you have, that like the fact that it's evident to you, I argue that's afforded by your current understanding, whatever that is. Like the culture that we were brought up in, or the concepts that you've learned about, allows you to think about this very concept of freedom, that I can go do something. I could go walk through that door behind me. Like, that's something I can do. Conceptually speaking, that's just like that's what I understand about myself and my freedom. So granted, we can't say that we have freedom in the sense that we can change like physical matter that isn't even like interfacing with us. Like, I can't make a pen levitate above my hand. I can't walk through a wall. So that's one way that we can't think about free will. We could also not think about free will in the sense of our thoughts. Like, we don't act, like when we are mindful of our thoughts, we notice that we don't control them. They will pop out whenever they want, same with emotions, right? These things are we don't have control over them, but we do have this conceptual understanding of our own freedom, and we can leverage that. Like, I can think about trying to do something, and it will actually affect my behavior. Like, that's the whole nice thing about this whole homeostasis view, is that my thoughts do affect my behavior, my future thoughts, mechanisms in my body that I'm unconscious of. Like, there's a lot of power in simply reflecting on your understanding or what you want to do, going to do it, etc. That's the whole rest of the document, by the way. That's part 1. You're correct, we can't control our thoughts, but we can control what we do with our thoughts, which means things can go differently depending on what we do with our thoughts. Yep, that's it. That's the thesis. That the catalyst of our freedom is reflection. That's the case that we make in part 1. A framework of freedom. We've got 3 pillars here. We've got freedom through understanding, the fact that I can I have the conceptual understanding that I can reflect, I can think, right? So I'm kind of afforded this ability to direct my thought in a certain way because I have this understanding of, like, I have a very self-conscious understanding of what I can do, and I can reflect on the world. I can reflect on what I can do. And so the next pillar is freedom through reflection. As I said, reflection is the catalyst. Like, I can think about the thing I want to do tomorrow, And that's actually going to make it more likely that I actually do that thing tomorrow. If I didn't think about doing it tomorrow, I might never do it. So the more I think about it, the more I realize that we are living in the Goldilocks of knowledge. For example, if we had a higher understanding of how things work, life would be very boring. Or if we had less understanding, life would be too chaotic. Fortunately, I should say, I don't think that's how our body works. I think even if we did have a understanding, like because we're humans, we still have these affective systems. There's still things that we could do. Going back to Maslow's hierarchy, if you, regardless of how much knowledge you have, if you meet the hierarchy, you will feel pretty good. And that's kind of what Dr. K talks about with the self-determination theory. It's like we do actually have a set of practical things that you can do that will make you feel like your life is meaningful. Regardless of how small the earth is compared to the universe, regardless of how short your life is compared to the span of time, like we have affective systems that will make us feel good if we do the things that lead to that. My experience has been that with enough meditation, there have been moments when the doer has lapsed and seems to be a generalized thing, that doing needs no doer, and ultimately a doer or agency or free will is illusory, which is seemingly the Eastern consensus. Ramakrishna, God alone is the doer. Harris represents the Tibetan perspective, it seems. Yeah, I think that that checks out. But like I would describe that as a consequence of the practice that you do and how it actually changes the physiology of your body and brain, and how it leads you to those experiences that you could consider like altered or enlightened in some sense. So then the key pillar of freedom that actually leads part 1 of the document into part 2, similar to how like what we're saying, is that you can think about things that you could think about things to do that will actually change your predisposition in the future. So thinking of like pursuing a goal. When I'm pursuing a goal, what I'm really looking for is, when I reflect, I want to consider that I've done the goal. Like that's where the goal actually interfaces with like my subjective consciousness. I need to, like, that's the experience I need to have. I need to have an experience where I feel like I've done the thing. Whatever it means for that thing to be done, I need to think that I've done the thing. So the question is, what can I do now that actually leads me to that point? And, certain goals have certain rules. If my goal is, I want this channel to have a certain amount of viewers, then like there's no getting around the fact that I need to see the viewer number. Like that's the, that's like a thing that needs to happen. And then I could think about what is the necessary requirement in between me and that state. And it's going to have to be like, it's not going to be me just waiting and doing nothing. It's got to be, I have to make content. I gotta be consistent. So that like you could think about goals in this way, where it naturally breaks down into sub goals, and that not only are these like just sub goals, like these are like deontic rules about the goal themselves. It's like, if you want to complete this goal, then you should do this thing. Like we're bringing prescription out of like literally just the concept of what the goal is. If I want to, so the same example, if I want to have those viewers, I must see that I have those viewers. Like that's a thing that must happen. And if I'm, if I'm going to see that, I must do some things, or I should do some things in order to get there, So that's the whole part 1 freedom stuff that we talk about. But the reason why this bridges into part 2 is because in part 2 we consider all the things that we can do to pursue, to identify and pursue our goals, which involves all the way from the science of motivation and attention, all the way to how we can learn, how we can build habits. Like we've got to go as comprehensive as possible. By the way, I did not. We haven't gotten through the rest of this this thing yet. So I'll just start here. Every perception, every thought, every gut feeling of intuition is your brain activating a learned neural pattern, a kind of mental blueprint shared by your past. I probably don't need to keep that. That's probably more ambiguous than not. The meaning you experience in any given moment, whether it's understanding a spoken word, recognizing a social cue, or feeling the importance of an idea, arises as your brain generates your current experience through the lens of these consolidated memory-based patterns. The same neural pattern, the same neural process of pattern recognition is at work, whether the stimulus is an external object, an internal concept, an emotional feeling, or a cognitive habit. So in tracing this path, we can see a clear progression. Emotionally charged events drive the formation of memories. These charged events and attention and emotionally charged events drive the formation of memories. These memories enable the recognition of patterns in both our external world and our internal landscape of thoughts. With repetition, these patterns become our automatic habitual ways of understanding. Consequently, and intuitively, our understanding is not static. It is a dynamic, reconstructive process that is constantly, if subtly, evolving. This means the understanding you possess at any given moment is merely the current state of this ongoing adaptive process. So while we can step back and subjectively reflect on what we understand, our beliefs, and more broadly the purposes of our lives, we must recognize that these beliefs are experienced through consciousness as a result of underlying neural activation, operating merely as a key part of a much larger homeostatic system. The exercise in conceptualizing the concepts that subjectively arise for us is philosophical, and we won't discuss that in this video. However, this is something I will soon cover on this channel. So, all right. So we've got this one last subsection, energy diopter, before I let this rip. What homeostasis ultimately provides us? Ultimately, the framework of homeostasis is incredibly comprehensive and coherent. It gives us an evolutionary lens to see why consciousness emerged, and a functional lens to understand what it does, how it affects our physiology, our behavior, our social dynamics, and ultimately our ability to survive and flourish. Most importantly, this framework directly addresses the hard problem by proposing a functional reason for subjective experience itself. It gives us an intuitive, in-the-moment sense of why our conscious experience behaves as it does and how it might affect our internal physiology, our behavior, thoughts, and social dynamics, survival, and flourishing. I kind of list through those twice, so I'm gonna do a to-do here for that. To-do, we make the same list twice. So that's no good. Through this scientifically grounded framework, consciousness is not merely an elusive subjective experience. It's an evolutionary advantage that helps us regulate our internal state and respond to our environment. It is a complex set of biological mechanisms whose effects are becoming increasingly understood and in many ways predictable. All right, let's let this rip. Have I wasted my entire day? That's the question here. All right, Zizek's critique of Antonio Damasio's theory of subjectivity, or more broadly, his account of affect, consciousness, and the embodied self, is fairly intricate because it pits a Lacanian psychoanalytic perspective, conjoined with Hegelian dialectical concerns, against a neuroscientific empirical approach. Below I sketch the key points of the critique, the assumptions behind it, and some counter responses. If you like, I can also map the debate more systematically. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Nice. Don't worry, I've wasted 10 years and I'm still fine. That's pretty wild. That's funny. I imagine you haven't, but all right. Damasio's view in brief. To To see what Zizek opposes, it's useful to recall key features of Damasio's view of subjectivity and consciousness. For Damasio, consciousness arises from an organism that can map its internal states in relation to external stimuli. Emotions and feelings are foundational. First, the body reacts, emotion, then the brain represents how those reactions feeling, and those representations feed into a self, the proto-self and core self, so we don't go into the nitty-gritty, and then higher order selves, the autobiographical self. The self is thus emergent. The brain-body dynamic constructs a self-model rather than positing a pre-existing subject. Damasio's picture emphasizes the continuity with nature. Subjectivity is rooted in biological, physiological, and evolutionary strata, with the subject as a biological conceptual construct within that continuum. All right. If I knew more about Zizek's views, I would probably at this point try to guess what he says, but I don't think I have a clue. So Zizek's criticisms center on the idea that Damasio's account fails to account for the constitutive role of the symbolic, the unconscious, and the structural gaps essential to subjectivity as conceived in psychoanalysis and Hegelian philosophy. Some of Zizek's criticisms, often in the parallax view, are as follows. All right, let's just make sure. The constitutive role of the symbolic, the unconscious, and the structural gaps essential to subjectivity. All right. Absence of the death drive or beyond the pleasure principle. Zizek argues that Damasio's unconscious, if one can call it that, is too safe. It is reducible to physiological and representational processes and lacks anything like Freud's death drive or the radical negativity that resists assimilation into homeostasis or equilibrium. In other words, the psychoanalytic kernel of subjectivity, the force that disrupts and fractures, is missing in Damasio's picture. All right, so I think I have a bearing of what's going on here. So this is what I think's going on. When Zizek talks about equilibrium, and this would be similar to, I think, Hegel talking about like equilibrium, or this is like Heidegger talking about inauthentic being. Like it's referring to more of like a theory of mind of like what we believe to be happening in the moment. So when I think about the pen, it's as if like you can imagine that there's a bunch of potential of what meaning could be, and then I collapsed it onto this being a pen. Like I've created an explicit, concrete meaning out of sheer potential. And what a lot of these philosophers point out is that we have an innate drive to not reside in that equilibrium. Like we have this drive, like a forward-looking drive towards potential, towards the fact, like the very fact that we could be wrong about what we believe right now. And like this is a philosophical way to make sense of our emotions, really. So if this is what he's describing, then I think that's actually covered by homeostasis as a concept. Like I don't think homeostasis, as Damasio describes it, purports that we do arrive at like a static equilibrium of understanding or belief. And what's nice is, we've already built this into our discussion of this. Like homeostasis involves the constant updating of understanding. We've talked about this through the affective signals and attention affecting neuroplasticity in such a way that we're building and losing brain connections that are affecting our ability to survive going into the future. So unless this becomes more concrete as something that's different from what I think it is, then I think we're good. Zizek insists that subjectivity is not just the play of representational maps, but also the site of irreducible antagonism, negativity, and the pathological exclusion, the notness. All right, so no place for the big other. All right, so maybe I should just start writing stuff. I don't know if I want to write all this stuff right now. It's going to be a lot of work, but maybe it won't be. Let me just read through the whole thing then, and then I'll think about that. No place for the big other. All right, so the big other, as I understand it from both Hegel and Heidegger, is this sense of like the social recognition of meaning itself. So like when I see a pen, like there's this innate sense that I recognize that you guys also see this as a pen. Like other people see this as a pen. And that's like kind of where I feel my certainty. It's like I feel certain that this isn't just a pen as I think about it. This is what people think a pen is. Like this is what the other thinks that the pen is. And the other being like some abstract other people, like abstract social understanding. In Lacanian theory, the subject's formation is mediated by the symbolic order, the realm of signifiers, language, law. For Zizek, Damasio's scheme is too neurocentric or naturalistic in that it does not sufficiently account for the structural role of the symbolic, the gap in representation, and the lack that structures desire. In Zizek's language, the subject is barred by the symbol. So I can't actually understand any of this. I think we need to know more Zizek. Damasio's model does not allow for the split or the constitutive lack. All right. So I'm wondering if this is like what I'm gathering is this isn't like a conflict with the physical implications of Damasio's model. It's more of a conflict with the conceptualization that Damasio arrives at. So it's more of a philosophical argument about how we ought to talk about the development of understanding and meaning itself. As I think that's what Zizek and Hegel in general are more concerned with. It's more of a theory of mind development rather than a physical development. Emotions lie. Zizek claims that in psychoanalysis, emotions are not transparent or trustworthy. They lie except for anxiety. So to make sense of this, just because we make sense of our emotions in a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that we're making sense of them in like an accurate way, whatever that would mean. And also it doesn't mean that, also I should say that it's not necessary for the homeostasis framework for us to actually understand what the emotions are. Our body is doing things in response to our emotions prior to us even realizing that we're feeling the emotions. And also, regardless of whether we're like correctly understanding what the emotions are. That said, it does still matter how we make sense of our emotions. Like how we make sense of our emotions do have an effect on further mechanisms. Like there's so much at play here. But this wouldn't be an effective demolition of the feelings argument of Damasio's model. Damasio's model seems to treat emotions and representations more straightforwardly and transparently, whereas perhaps more abstractly, whereas for Zizek, emotions are structured, mediated, and symptomatic. Thus, Zizek accuses Damasio of failing to capture the deceptive or oblique dimension of affect. All right, the mental breaks away from the material in a way Damasio doesn't allow. While Zizek is committed to a materialism, he insists that the mental phenomena, consciousness, subjectivity, are not mechanically reducible to neuronal or bodily processes. There is a gap or parallax in relation to them. The mental is born from the material, but then breaks away and cannot be fully recomposed into it. Damasio's model, in Zizek's view, insufficiently accounts for this break. So this is kind of something that I do agree with, in the sense that Damasio's model tells us why we are conscious. It tells us it says why we are conscious in an evolutionary perspective, and it tells us why why our consciousness behaves in the way that it does, and what that actually means towards our future conscious experience and towards like the broader mechanisms of our body. It doesn't tell us still why we have like a subjective feeling in the subjective way, or like in the exact way that we subjectively feel this. Like why do these emotions not necessarily feel good or bad, because that makes sense, but why do they feel like exactly as they feel? Like why does fear and anxiety are two different emotions. Why do they like actually feel like that? And I mean, you could always bring it back to because it tends to result in distinct behaviors that we can intuit, but still, like, there's some aspect of our subjectivity that like we why does it feel like this? So I think that gap is still there. Reduction of subjectivity to natural strata. Zizek challenges Damasio's presumed continuity from nature to subjectivity. The psychoanalytic worldview insists on a certain denaturalization. The subject is not just a higher level biological emergent, but is structurally split, determined by the absence or the void that cannot be naturalized. Damasio's grounding in physiology risks erasing what Zizek sees as the irreducible otherness of subjectivity. So I can't make sense of that one. I'd have to study Zizek more to know what he means by the language he's using. Autonomy of psychoanalytic categories against neuroscientific correction. Zizek holds that psychoanalytic theory should not be treated as merely subordinate to empirical neuroscience. The categories of the unconscious, symptom, drive, etc. have their internal coherence and primacy in diagnosing subjectivity. Yeah, this I would also agree with. Like, we don't have correlates between like very specific sets of connections and very specific sets of beliefs. So just because we can make sense of my experience of seeing a pen here through some activation of connections, like we don't actually, it's not like I could find the pen connections in my brain. So there's still some aspect of like what we ought to do subjectively, what we ought to think subjectively, that will actually provide outcomes that we would like. So that does require a lot of empirical social sciences and psychology, etc. The psychoanalysis is very much still necessary and isn't like replaced by this more material theory of simply how consciousness would have emerged and why it functions as it does. All right, I think none of that was all too expelling. What would be the word? Canceling. What I might do, because I don't want to actually write down the response, is I might transcribe this stream and then throw it back into this, and or perhaps I would do it in a different. I'm gonna just save this conversation, but I'll probably throw it into a Gemini, and I'll ask it how I do in terms, or what would the response be to my response to Zizek's thing. We could even do that tomorrow, perhaps. But I'll do that via transcription, so I don't have to think about this again and write it. All right, so the response to panpsychism, finally, which finally leads us to my response to Alex's views on consciousness. A point of agreement, the complexity argument. So this is not something I mentioned yet in this video, but he does make this argument, and I agree with him. First, I want to start on a point of agreement. Alex is right to be skeptical of the simplistic argument that consciousness is merely an inevitable product of complexity. Just because a system is complex or intelligent, even super intelligent, does not mean it has feelings. Damasio makes this point in The Strange Order of Things. There's plenty of evidence that artificial organisms can be designed so as to operate intelligently and even surpass the intelligence of human organisms. But there's no evidence that such artificial organisms, designed for the sole purpose of being intelligent, can generate feelings just because they are behaving intelligently. Natural feelings emerged in evolution, and there they remained because they have made live or die contributions to the organisms lucky enough to have them, which is a crazy thing to say. That's a crazy sentence at the end there. Lucky enough to have them. In other words, feeling isn't a bonus feature of intelligence. It's a human, evolutionarily developed tool for survival. All right, I should say human specific. No, it's not human specific. Feeling it's a. I have to say this because feeling was something that we do share with other animals. An argument from ignorance fallacy. Now, to address panpsychism, at its heart, panpsychism's appeal comes from leveraging the hard problem of consciousness, the fact that our current scientific understanding cannot fully explain the subjective experience. But while this opens the door to philosophical hypotheses like panpsychism, it does nothing to ground it as a scientific theory. The absence of a complete explanation does not automatically lend credence to a speculative one. Science is constantly filling in these gaps, further revealing the strong correlations between biology and subjective conscious experience. I find it reasonable to claim that we will continue to learn more about this connection, and I wonder whether humans will ever be able to completely understand this connection due to its sheer complexity. We can consider the most compelling evidence for panpsychism, its intuitive phenomenological charm, especially regarding psychedelic, spiritual, or religious experiences. The argument is that since these experiences feel like an expansion of consciousness while brain activity decreases, the brain must be a filter that has been temporarily opened. However, I believe this to be a strong man of the neurobiological position. The materialist view doesn't require a simple linear relationship where more brain activity equals more conscious experience. This phenomenon doesn't disprove that the brain generates consciousness. It merely indicates a more complex relationship, likely involving the suppression of filtering networks like the default mode network. So if you might subjectively feel that your mind is open, it's more accurate to say that your mind is profoundly altered. Altered than expanded. It's more physically accurate, I should say. Maybe scientifically, I'm not sure. The scientific hurdles, combination and mechanism. Even if we grant its steel man philosophical premises, panpsychism runs into two massive scientific hurdles. First is the combination problem. This is the strongest argument. I don't know if anyone's still here, but this is the strongest arguments we have. Even if we grant its steel man philosophical premises, panpsychism runs into two massive scientific hurdles. First is the combination problem. It's incredibly difficult to explain how billions of tiny, simple points of micro-consciousness in atoms could combine to create the single, unified, and complex conscious experience of a person. But the bigger issue is the lack of a testable mechanism. As we've seen, the homeostatic model provides a clear evolutionary trajectory. Panpsychism does not. For the brain to have evolved as a filter for, or specifically evolved to filter, some fundamental consciousness, that consciousness would have needed to exert some kind of selective pressure on our evolution. As far as I understand, there is currently no evidence of this. So, yeah, if like this is how evolution works. Like if evolution evolved in a certain direction towards filtering consciousness, then we'd have to show a specific selective pressure. Furthermore, the filter hypothesis offers no plausible physical mechanism for how a brain would receive or filter this consciousness. What part of the brain is the receiver, sensor, or antenna? What is the signal it's receiving? If we take it that some fundamental consciousness simply comes along for the ride of evolution, yet it still affects our conscious experience, then we must identify how this mechanism operates intrinsically or extrinsically to the brain and body. What part of the brain... Oh, is this the same questions? Yeah, we can get rid of this. Yeah, we could just ask the questions here. what part of the brain receives or filters this consciousness. Once again, without a testable mechanism, panpsychism remains unfalsifiable and moving it out of the realm of science and into pure metaphysics. Because of the lack of this evidence, panpsychism is speculative at best and implausible at worst. The final blow, a problem of precision. And as a final blow, we can take this to panpsychism's own philosophical court. As we've established our entire understanding of the world, so this is where like the full view of our experience of meaning shines. As we've established our entire understanding of the world, from the concept of a chair to the feeling of certainty about a belief, is an ongoing adaptive process built from the biological machinery of our embodied minds. This means that each person's interpretation of an event or concept is different. Given this, we have to recognize that grand abstract phrases like fundamental matter of the universe or universal consciousness are profoundly ambiguous. Each person will infer a completely different meaning from them. When we build a framework to understand reality, precision is paramount. A theory's power comes from its ability to provide a shared language that allows us to make specific empirical observations and testable predictions. And this is where the two frameworks reveal their fundamental difference in utility. Damasio's theory of homeostasis provides that level of precision. It grounds its concepts, feelings, attention, meaning in observable empirical phenomena like neural networks, the vagus nerve, and the gut microbiome. These are concrete things we can measure, test, and build upon. Panpsychism, in contrast, relies on concepts that are, by their very nature, untestable and ill-defined. What precisely is the proto-consciousness of an electron? How exactly does it combine with others? These questions are unanswerable because the terms themselves are not operationally defined. They don't give us anything to measure or test. This is more than just a semantic issue. It's a philosophical one. A framework that cannot make specific, falsifiable predictions cannot be built upon. It becomes, a mere semantic or philosophical, or scientific issue. It's a philosophical and pragmatic one. A framework that cannot make specific, falsifiable predictions cannot be built upon. It becomes a philosophical dead end. It may be an interesting thought experiment, but it fails to provide the utility of a robust practical theory. There's one thing that we're missing. It also could act as a purpose-generating belief system. Like, once again, we talked about this. I got to respond to these, but we talked about this in the sense of religion. Even if you think like a religion's wrong, like it's providing people benefits, like significant benefits to their well-being. So, like then you could, like, this is where we have to consider what we mean by wrong, right? Like, is the goal when we're talking about right and wrong to be like, empirically right and wrong, or are we talking right and wrong as it concerns our ability to have a purposeful life, a meaningful life? So believing in panpsychism could bring people a lot of resolution, and it could make people feel very good about their lives. A bad wrong or a good wrong. All right, what turned my view of the world upside down is when I stumbled upon the concave theory 10 years ago. The concave theory. It states that the universe is in the center of Earth, and we live on Earth's inner surface. And the more time has passed, the more it made me think that it doesn't truly matter. It made me feel special for a moment in time. I thought it will make more sense, but even in that world model, God could still not exist. And it won't make life more special because we won't be at the center, but literally at the opposite of the center. So in a way, I had an epiphany that even if I know for sure that I created everything or everything is created for me, it still won't matter. It won't necessarily make me a better person. Yeah, I think that's a really wise discovery. I think what we have is a quite complex brain and body. Like that's our circumstance here. And it's a negotiation. We don't get, just because it's like our brain and body, like that doesn't mean that we just get to choose everything and we get to, walk around as if there's no constraints on the world. Like, not only are there physical constraints that we understand, or societal constraints, or constraints where we were born, in a family of a certain level of means. Like, we literally have a conceptual constraint. Like, our brain is going to tell us when something is not what we thought it was. So present is always on our side, right? Absolutely. So like, what we have here is we have this ability to reflect on what we can do about our circumstance, the only thing that we can control, right? And then and then we move from there. And the cool thing is, and this is what part 2 and part 3 of the document are going to be looking into, there are techniques that can make this whole thing easier. Like, we can do things, like very simple things that will actually increase our ability to think, or to pursue our goals, or to achieve positive emotion, or achieve social relations. There's so much stuff that we have to now look into, but that we will cover. And it should just be a manual, essentially, of how you can live a fulfilling life. All right, so the summary. This debate becomes a choice between a scientifically grounded, though still speculative and incomplete theory, and a non-scientifically grounded, speculative, ambiguous, and merely metaphysical hypothesis. There are no scientifically validated arguments for panpsychism. It's a philosophical position, not a testable scientific theory. Its strongest arguments are philosophical inferences that arise from the current limitations of science. On the other hand, Damasio's homeostatic model provides a more scientifically plausible explanation that makes sense of why consciousness arose and why it behaves as it does. That said, once again, the hard problem of consciousness is yet unresolved. I should just say not yet resolved, right? The hard problem of consciousness is not yet resolved, and we still don't quite understand how our underlying biological mechanisms generate the subjective experience we can each intuit. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I think I started with this entire stream. I asked, was it this one? Okay, yeah. Okay, and then I have a summary section which which needs a little work. So this is, so we have this, and then we have the closing, advertising my fuller pursuit, which is what I've called this, which is basically pimping out the document, since we literally cover all these topics in the document and then more. Like, we go even farther, because this is only like this topic only discusses, like, what's leading to our consciousness and our experience of meaning, etc. But then we can go farther and we can consider what we can do about it, or how we can think about our own freedom within that. And that's what we do in the document in part 1. So I think this would be a nice thing to advertise now, especially since we still haven't posted all the videos or the read-throughs of, I haven't even filmed them, of the major sections of part 1. So I think this is the right time to do that. And I don't know if this video is too crazy. Did it make sense? Did it follow? I know there's a few changes I have to make, but ideally a video that has like a lot of substance to it and is also challenging a prominent figure has the chance for some viewership. So I think I'm just going to throw it out there, and then if it hits, it hits. So good so far. I like it. Nice. Well, I think we're pretty much done. So the only thing I wanted to do is in a pragmatic and practical direction. One final assertion. Not only is this, I guess this is another take. We don't have to make another argument here. We could just kind of say how we can leverage this in a pragmatic way. What was funny, so this all started from transcripts from stream, and then it was adding in examples that, like, I don't know if Darmadam, if you're still here, but it was it was adding in. It added in the elephant parable to the writing, and yeah. And then I was like, "Did you only do this because of Darmadam's chat?" It's like, yes, I included the blind men in the elephant parable specifically because of your interaction with the chatter Darmadam, which I thought was funny. All right. Yeah, let's see. I don't know if I want to say it the same way. Okay, this brings us to a final choice. We can either... no, it's here. Yeah, how do we want to frame this next part? Also, I guess am I going to do any Hades tonight? It would have to be a short Hades, but I might do that regardless. I think we've already made the argument that this is a I'm sorry, this is a practical, like we can now follow the practical direction that I don't know. I think I'm gonna sleep on this one. We need to consider what framing we want for this subsection. Like the video that I got the original clip from was a video where they were specifically talking about meaning in life. So I was thinking maybe we could just kind of give a overview of how we can pursue that, leveraging both some of the tips that Dr. K mentions in that video, but also how it's in line with the whole idea of homeostasis. And how the idea of homeostasis implies that there's empirical things we could do that would affect our mental health or mental state. So, and then the closing would be the advertising my fuller pursuit. So I think that's all we need. I don't know how long that took for me to read, but I guess it's somewhere between an hour and 2 hours, probably a little, maybe an hour or a little over an hour. But I would be reading it straight through, so I think that's like a normal size for a video essay. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to film it tomorrow. I might need more sleep and prep, but yeah, it should be good. I'm kind of stoked that I was able to whip this up in 2 days. So you had a lot of pauses, right? I think it would only take like 10 minutes to read. Yeah, 10 minutes might be I'd have to be reading pretty fast. What do people do? Like, yeah, it could be like 20 or 30. What do people do in these video essays? Do they literally just talk to the camera? Like, how much B-roll then should we have? What would the B-roll be? We're talking about random science. I don't know if the B-roll is going to be all that interesting. I honestly should just have like a video, like what people do on TikTok. I should just have like Minecraft footage. Go. Are you going to get an animator to draw silly tomfoolery while you I wish I had an animator, but I probably won't. I think it depends on how you want to make it. It should be a combination of all. Oh, what do you mean a combination of all? Like I should have different versions, or I should put like 3 different B-rolls up on screen? Should it just be penguins the entire time? Should it be... We still have those videos that I want to use for short form content of like the fire, like the candle. I forget what else we had, like a flower blooming maybe. Video essays on YouTube are 99% B-rolls or animations. Yeah, it's just I don't have the stuff for that. You know, I think it would take me a long time to find B-roll for all these things. 2, like this would be the most boring B-roll possible. Unless we're talking like straight up dopamine mining B-roll. Like maybe we just do a time lapse of a meadow, or it's a girl with a huge microphone talking into the camera. That's what I've seen. Well, could I do a normal size microphone talking into the camera? I was thinking of not showing so far in the reading videos I've showed my script, but I was thinking of not doing that. I was thinking of maybe putting the script over by the camera and then kind of reading slightly below the camera, and far enough away that so that the viewer doesn't think that I'm trying to make it look like I'm looking at them. Because I always think that's really weird when people are reading off of I think we've talked about this, when people are reading off of a teleprompter, but it's so obvious that they're not looking at you, but they're looking right. It's like as if they're looking at your forehead. But if they're looking down at, like if I'm looking down enough, like if I'm literally I think when you see me looking at chat, it doesn't look like I'm looking at the camera. So I think that at least then I could I could look up whenever I'm confident about the rest of the sentence. But we'll see. Maybe I could ask Gemini. All right, I think I'm gonna call it there. We still have to go through the inventions. Maybe, you know what? Because today was so productive, let's make tomorrow. Tomorrow's usually a watch video day, though. That's pretty fun. All right, tomorrow, let's do inventions and I don't know. Uh-oh, what's going on here? What do you got wrong? How did you make this? What is this right now? O'Connor says veganism doesn't work. Is this someone else's? Is this someone else's thumbnail you just found? Elite thumbnail. What he got wrong. Yeah, I got to figure out what I want to do here, because I do really like, I know this is terrible. I do really like my my branding, as silly as it is. Like having these little guys pushing up something with my, like, I feel like this bold text is you know, legible enough when you're scrolling through that you could find it. It's just, I mean, I guess there's something striking about the size of this square. It's not the most elegant, but then it allows me to get like a thing in there, like a face. So perhaps I get Alex O'Connor's face over here, and then I say something like challenging Alex O'Connor on consciousness or something like that. Jesus. The biggest fraud. It's not mine. In order to get his attention, it says then you can work with it in the future. I should just call it. Yep. Type in video essay and see what everyone else is doing. That's a good question, or a good exercise here. Video essay, but like video essays is a pretty broad topic here. Niche video essays. Long video essays. Yeah, but these are going to be incredibly done. Look at this. 4 hours and it's got B-roll. That's going to be tough for me.
Build a website you love.
We got to get rid of this. There we go. Plagiarism in YouTube. So yeah, this has B-roll. No one's even, actually, I guess he comes out and talks a little bit. A lot of people do that mechanism, or that way of going about it. But this is a lot of work. Like, I want to pump out video essays pretty frequently. This guy can't be doing that. Like, this guy, yeah, this guy's pumping out one per year. Actually, I guess a few more. But this, like, these videos take a long time, and I can't do that type of content. I don't even think that's good for growth. Like, I want quick, frequent video essays. You know, I could pump out the scripts in a day or two, and then we need to be just throwing stuff up there. You need Mr. Beast's thumbnail generator. 4 hours. Uh-oh. All right, let it rip. Okay, I do like Alt-Shift-X. What does he do again? Oh, he's got all the clips from the movie that he's going over, so that's cheating. But then he's got all the nice quotes and stuff like that. What do we got? Oh. Oh, I've seen this one. Okay. This is a classic. Nope, I haven't seen I saw the line goes up one. So this is a game. This guy, he kind of he talks to the camera. This is what I could do. I could go and sit in different areas of the room of the apartment, but I don't think that really works. It would be fun at some point to make like a ContraPoints type video essay. I think that style is kind of goated as well. Like I would go full, this, I don't know if you guys have seen this video. I don't think I've even seen all the Twilights, but this video was incredible. It's really interesting. But yeah, so it's a lot of her like sitting in different areas of her actually maybe it's the same area, but she just keeps decorating it. But then she's got a lot of B-roll. Yeah, it's just tough. I don't know if I can have this much B-roll. Okay, so he talks and then he does bring stuff up. The greatest terrible book ever made. Yo, it's Wendigoon. This is elite. Standing with a green screen. That I should be doing this. And then it should be penguins in the background. The B-roll is changing. Yo, this is incredible. This is all right. Onion helmet, great idea. This is where we ended up. Just a fire in the background, but his B-roll is changing, so that like perhaps we take a note. Okay, but I'm trying to motivate you. Maybe get stock video to edit in. If only one of your video essays got to 1 million views after huge production value, we'd be ballin'. That's not as classy, I think. What, doing what Wendigoon's doing here? I don't know. 9.8 million views says otherwise. But I think he like this. Oh, this is 2 years. I mean, he was huge before he did this video, so I think that's another issue with the long video essays. We need to be looking at specifically YouTubers' first video essays or their first viral video essays. Was famous just talking straight to the cam. Yeah, was his early videos talking straight to the cam? Like, should I not just do talking straight to the cam? All right, what's going on here? No, he's got. Oh, this is just a podcast. Ish. Oh no. Oh, he's doing something interesting too. Okay, no, he's just reading while having B-roll again of people walking in the woods. 3.8 mil? When was his first big one? His first video. This is incredible. That's really impressive. Oh. So yeah, for this type of video, that's all he does. He just switches it from. Oh, he's got a little bit of B-roll. No, I gotta think also. What would Alex O'Connor want in this video? This is a video for Alex O'Connor, so. There are two types of serious philosophy content on YouTube. Have you ever heard of Bernardo Castro? We were just watching the video with him in it, right? I didn't realize how huge this guy is, but it seems like everyone knows him. Yeah, we were watching the video where he was talking with the Advaita Vedanta guy. I gotta check this stuff out. Pay attention to life. Oh my gosh, this is what we need to be doing. Pointing at the same picture of me just pointing at the title. See, this is where I think that like my silly branding is fine. You know, if people could get away with just like pointing at a title. Which I think all what matters is bolded letters and perhaps like some sort of emphasis. So okay, Sarva Prianda, that's who he was talking with. Okay. I've only seen one video of him, but I liked his explanation on free will. I just now realized. You have the usual professor talking in his room, calm, collected, like carefree wandering. Then you have the big production value 10+ minute video essay with animations, B-roll, costumes, and or green screens. So yeah, am I going to be the boring, unusual professor? Then you have unsolicited advice. All right. First of all, I should be subscribing just to keep these people in the sub list here. What do we got going on here? He's talking in front of the camera, but he's talking to the camera, which is impressive. Which either means that he's memorizing or he's got a. Let me. No, he's looking at a. He's looking down. He's looking down. Oh no, he's got a bunch of B-roll. This is terrible. These standards are too high. But it is a lot of talking right at the camera. He's got to have a nice teleprompter because this is pretty good as far as looking at the camera versus looking down at the words. He's doing this pretty well. Swami is head of the Vedanta Society in New York, which is a big one. Oh, cool. That's awesome. You would need a combination of both. You got to start somewhere. Check out Carefree Wandering. Yeah, I mean, this isn't going to be our last video essay. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, but this is what? Still all B-roll? Oh no, it's okay. It's some of it. So yeah, I guess if I were to have a video that had B-roll in it, I would definitely use that. But I just don't know if I oh, this is a discussion, right? Oh yeah. Here we go. I gotta subscribe to this guy as well. I gotta see what he's doing. All right, we got. Yep, this is where we found out the penguin videos a while back. Can we search for specifically long videos though? Like time lapse. Yeah, that's the only issue. Like, I don't know if we can search by length, which we really need a long video if we're going to make this work. And I can't do short video. I can't just like do a ton of short videos because this is going to be a long video in its entirety. So I need basically stock. I need to do what Wendigoon did and have just stock footage of just something happening, essentially. Here we go. The shirtless cowboys in the back dancing and stuff while you explain your wisdom. Well, this is where like it would be nice if I did the whole green screen thing. I'm standing and then we could put anything back there. How long do I need? I probably need at least 30 minutes, maybe 45. Just cut it in for 5 seconds, I would say. Some video relevant to what you're saying. Yeah, the only issue, though, with that type of B-roll is that, one, it requires a lot of work for me to find specific B-roll and a lot of work to, like, actually match it up. And it also then requires me finding... I don't know if I literally just said this, but it just requires a lot of B-roll. I think the B-roll has to be about the topic you're discussing. Yeah. Yeah, it might just make sense for me to not have B-roll. I mean, what B-roll goes well with, we're talking about consciousness. talking about the brain, talking about memory. I don't want to just do like books when we're talking about memory, or like a picture of a brain when we're talking about the brain. I don't want to just do a picture or like a GIF of brain activity. Though actually a GIF of brain activity would be pretty good. Maybe pay someone good on Fiverr to edit for you. It would be very cheap, I think, for something. That's like per video, though. The only issue is I just want to pump out content pretty frequently, so I don't know if I could keep up that model. And even though I could do it for a singular video, I'm not sure. But maybe it would be worth it. Maybe it would be worth going for these home runs. Like I don't think my usual content is very viral worthy, but maybe a challenge to Alex O'Connor that is pretty thorough, pretty comprehensive in the topics it discusses. Maybe that would be it. All right. Sorry, I'm jumping around, but we gotta fill up our calendar before our pipeline runs tomorrow morning and generates our picture for the next week. This is yeah. When does it run? Oh, I don't know. This is not our time though. 12:07 p.m. I think it may be it's probably 4 hours off. This is like a bug. But it's probably 8:07. No, wait, this says PM too. Oh, that's terribly off then. I have a superb idea. Oh my gosh. Not even just a good idea, but a superb idea. On Tuesday, unfortunately, I think we do have to just continue talking affective neuroscience. We have to get through those notes. And then maybe I just cut it off at some point. Maybe Thursday we do we could actually read through some of the really cool quotes from The Strange Order of Things, which I need to read through again just to make sure that they're incorporated. Obviously, Part 2 development. Part 2 development's really fun right now because we are actually now creating the fundamental outline of that entire document, which is a lot. And then once again, Friday, we're taking recommendations. And then do I have anything going on in the weekend? I don't know if I should. Oh, you know what we're doing Saturday? We're going to watch that guy. What's that guy's video? The channel that we got to check out on Saturday night? Oh, I totally... Is it... Was it Ivan Neo? Was that it? Yeah, it was. All right, this will be my way of remembering. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't say this because... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I shouldn't say this because if it's not something that's like really compelling within the first 5 minutes, I'll probably just tune off. I did not message the Redditors. We got to do that as well. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But we gotta shout out those guys. Chilling out. That's Saturday, and that's all I can. That's all I'll say probably. All right. Oh, look at the. Okay, I missed the first one. So we've got. Pepis? All right. Is this even... What is going on here? I don't know if I'm going to... Oh, is he just drinking the hot sauce? Oh, my gosh. Is this what I need to do to get views these days? Showing the play button, Halloween brew. Oh, this is sick that he's got the whole home button. How did he blow up? Oh, we got to go to the oldest. New channel, welcome. Oh, this is just an authentic guy just making content he likes. Respect. I don't know how you found this, but oh my gosh. Yeah, you're right. Look at these views. Pickle Pepsi. Oh man. It's probably good, but oh man. All right. Someone dead ass posted your document on the Jordan Peterson subreddit. Yeah, straight up came in, got the link, posted it, left, refused to elaborate. Yeah, I don't like. Do we recognize those names at all? Oh, where was that actually? It was in this, right? It's somewhere in this. Was it a separate? No, did I lose it? What happened here? Oh, this is it, yeah. Do we recognize anyone with this name? North Structure? I don't think a North Structure has been on this channel. And then, this is the best. If I want views, I need to cover politics. Bummer. This doesn't work unless you go off the deep end. Maybe start beef with someone. Maybe a lurker. Oh, yeah, it could be a lurker. Or it could have been a lurker at the time. Yeah, I don't know what to make of the... you know, like if one of my streams gets 14 views, you know, what do I make of that? So, like, yeah, how much of that is accounted for by what I see, really? Because I don't show my viewers while I'm streaming. I only know if there's a viewer if someone talks in chat, just because I don't want it to mess with me. But we kind of hit crazy numbers right here. We hit 124 on our inventions stream and our I gotta remember both these guys' names, but the two names I literally just said this stream. What was his mission? That's a good question, right? Like 9, yeah. Did I already lose that? Yeah, I did already lose that. Oh, that's not the one. That's not it either. Was it here? Yeah. 9 months ago, yeah. Someone came in here 9 months ago. Would have been in January. So this is like right after I decided that we have to like pretty much change up the document to talk about the science of experience before we talk about the philosophy of conceptualizing our understanding. Like, we didn't even have a lot of the structure of the document yet. Are those views real? Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what's going on. And yeah, so I don't know what to make of 19 views. Like, is that, yeah, like, and then another day is 4 views. Like, what does that mean? Was there actually 15 people more that saw this? Or is it just, you know, just like whether or not you open the stream and then that counts as a view, and then you could like refresh and that counts as a view? And so I don't know what to make of it. Like, it just swings. We go from 3 to 48. I don't know. But why did I bring that up? I brought that up because yeah, I'm not sure what to make of like what type of content would. I mean, I don't want to obviously play to just get views here. I think we're making content that the document kind of demands us to make, or allows us to make, and content that is still informative. Like the nice thing about this is it literally just gives me an excuse to talk about, you know, homeostasis, and then even the further takes that you know our document makes about how we experience meaning, etc. So this is just like kind of a home run type of a video idea. I'm a little worried that some of the video ideas are just going to be too overlapping, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. It's kind of like Jordan Peterson videos. Like he once you watch a ton of Jordan Peterson, you realize that he brings up the same stuff like pretty frequently, and for a while it's not an issue because the stuff is just so cool. But yeah, we do have to have a fuller deep dive into how rationality is emotional, and like constitutively so, like fundamentally so, and like it's a good thing. Like that's actually how we rationally think about things. Panpsychism. This is something that Damasio also brought up in the book that I think we should do a video on. Humans are not algorithms. So this is like often a thought people have, that just because, you know, we can make clear like our neural mechanisms in a material way, that means that like our brain is just algorithmic. Now, granted, there are certain mechanisms in our brain and body that you could make an analogy to algorithms. However, there's a very different mechanisms happening at the same time. Like, you know, we've got the electrical, we got the chemical, we got very different of each. Or actually, you know what? I think all the electrical mechanisms are pretty similar, but the chemicals, the chemical mechanisms are very varying. So you would have to how do people even find VODs to watch like that? I think it's I think the VODs take into account the people watching live. So I think, I don't know, maybe maybe it's VODs. That would be kind of wild, but maybe it's just people lurking. Like perhaps there were I don't know. I actually don't see my the viewers live, so I don't know. What's like the most amount of viewers you've seen that this channel has ever had while live? Like I imagine it's like 3 or something, because that's the other thing. I know that we're not getting many views because or live views, because we still have this one where do I go for this? We still have this requirement of, would it be home? Oh, do we get 1? No way. No way. We're 1 minimum of 3 average viewers on 4 different days. This is pretty huge though. We got a single 1. We've never gotten a 1 here before. But this is all we need to get affiliate. We just need more viewers more frequently. But you know, I think that's just gonna, like, there's no rush on any of these things. I think these things will just come in time as the community grows, as there's just more interest. So yeah, look at this. Your last stream hit a record 14 unique viewers. Pretty cool. I don't think we're gonna hit that. Man, I don't know where to go at all here. I don't even know what we're looking at. Is this from today? Is this telling me today? Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so what is this? Okay, live views. I don't understand these two numbers. If there's 9 unique viewers, how are we getting 53 live views? What's up with that? I think that's from today, right? Right. Yeah, so what is the difference here? I couldn't tell you. Yeah, this is the thing that we need. 5, yeah, I don't know. Has spent 0 seconds watching. A watch time. Man, you've spent 0. You haven't even been looking at the screen. You just have this open. Follow age. Oh, look at that. 1 year, 2 months, 18 days. Yeah, I think that was pretty close to the start of this channel, right? It was like July I started. Mid-July. So 2 months and 18 days would be July. Has transcended time. Can I? Yeah, what happens when I do this? Watch time. Yep, nice. And then what happens if I do follow age? Can I follow myself? Is that a thing I could do? I guess not. I can't call in my own stream. That's lame. That's lame. Oh, true. You gotta find the original account name, but I think that was the cleanest, right? It was oh, right. Okay. I could have sworn it was always Darmadom here, but just a different version. But I could be wrong. But we can learn this, right? We could figure this one out. We've got a dashboard here. I could just was it this one? Or would it just be even lower? I mean, if this is all the followers, then yeah, I think it would be the lowest one here. I think it's probably just Darmadom, no spaces. Nice, hell yeah. Yeah, so does this point out the first? So, John Madden. So, I know this person IRL. So, I don't know if I know this person IRL, but you're either the first or the second. Pokemate's not following. Come on. Yeah, and an actual blasphemy. In due time, I feel like I could just come up with ideas to pretty much collaborate with almost anyone. Also, it would be so funny if I just found reasons to make videos like this, like challenging videos, where someone says something like as like a offhand comment that isn't that important, and then I just make like an hour-long video essay in response to it, going through a bunch of science and a bunch of just like substantive content. The stand is gonna be sick. Yeah, I gotta figure out what the that might be my ASMR arc. Honestly, that's got to come in here. You know, I don't think that's gonna be before, you know, a lot of the other arcs, but it'll come eventually. Is wrong about everything. All right, I guess I'm not playing Hades today, which is a bummer. But I gotta get to bed. All right, is there something fun we could do for like 10 minutes? What would be a good 10-minute activity here? Oh, we got more summaries, by the way. We're still like a week behind. Crazy. I can't catch up. I was originally considering to make the response video just be an edit from the stream, because I know I was like reacting to things as we were watching that video. But I thought if I'm actually gonna, put in the title that that I'm challenging Alex O'Connor, and like if I'm actually gonna do this, then I gotta do it real. I gotta do it with the level of care that I think it would deserve. Okay. Am I specifically responding to Alex's comments on that 3-hour-long video? I think it was just, this was an excuse for me to finally do something on panpsychism, which I've been wanting to do. But I didn't think that like any of my specific stream responses were comprehensive, so I didn't make a video from those. But yeah, it's kind of, I think Alex O'Connor is like the right person to go after on this one, because like the argument that I try to make is that it's almost like it's according to the scientific method, it would be inappropriate to have the views that, or it would be inappropriate to commit to those views. And that's not to say that people shouldn't have those views. It's just like Alex O'Connor is the type of person that I think you could make like this type of argument towards, because he's usually very much like I don't want to say he's like very much a rational person, like in the sense that like his mind, he thinks rationally. I'm thinking like he respects the rules of rationality, or the rules of logic, such that I think that he's like a particularly appropriate person to have this type of challenge towards. The Alex O'Connor Reddit is going to be in shambles when they hear has come for their boy. I'm coming to abduct him and then become friends with the guy. I just still can't believe that Alex O'Connor is 2 years younger than me. That's pretty crazy. I got to be like an old man on in this space now. Make this thumbnail. Uh-oh. Oh no. You're not. So that would be crazy if it would be crazy if I just judged people and said whether or not they're Sigma or not. I don't know if that would really fly. It's probably not good for the brand. I don't think we should be judgmental on this channel as like a rule. Even though that would be funny. The goal is to get like we should do the most that we can actually do. So what would that mean? Yeah, I don't know. The most as controversial as we could get without being actually controversial would be ideal. Unfortunately, I think even a video like the challenging Alex O'Connor one is pretty controversial, just because it's kind of going up against people who have very strong beliefs about their experience and consciousness. So I'm sure they'll understand it's ironic, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's. I don't think wise to do some. I don't think it's wise to do something that 95% of people would understand, but 5 people wouldn't understand. Like, I think that's even pretty risky. But then again, chances are that that could be a description of what I'm literally making right now. Can we raid if you're feeling adventurous? All right, let's see. Let's see what's going on here. What is going on here? Is this it? Are we seeing it? No, this is, I'm on the wrong site. Oh, I need to actually put this into Twitch.
A sleeping bag filled with poop.
Oh, he's got the
Bigger
kid
on
in the
inside.
background. That's awesome.
Fucking the twink next door while his boyfriend's
Jeez.
at work. Bigger on.
All right. I think I don't think I have the NSFW thing settings set on here. Where is it? Content. Yeah, I don't have any of the significant profanity or vulgarity, so I probably can't hear I can't hear this audio, but what is he doing right now? What is the king of the castle here? Is this something that is this just a game, I'm guessing? He's doing picture cards online. I'm guessing this is some sort of interaction with chat. Oh, he's playing a game. Nice. I mean, I guess we could. I guess it really doesn't. You know what? Since we don't have many people here, is everyone fine with that? So, is this all right, we got Christian, anxiety, mental health support, gaming, fitness, memes, politics, English, conservative, depression. Interesting lot. Have we rated this guy before? I feel like we might have rated this guy before, upon your own recommendation. Oh, we have. Okay. No, I think he was very nice when we did. Has he blown up? Like, I feel like this is pretty good. Oh, I see. This is telling people how to actually use this thing. Does this play like a like Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity? But I guess you type in the response. So this plays more like Quiplash, maybe. He has discovered more of an audience. Nice. Very cool. All right. Yeah, I think I might call it here. Oh, I should be rating Harley at some point, just for fun. I don't even know if he allows raids, but I'll do an epic meal collab. That'd be pretty sweet. All right, so how do I raid again? What's going on here? Do I @raid? Do I ! raid? Nope. I /raid and then a channel. Nice. All right. I think I'm going to call it here. Thank you all for chilling. Thanks for listening to my my script, my video script. I don't think I'm going to film it tomorrow. I think I need to just rest and maybe just like sleep on it, maybe a couple days to figure out, because I do want to. I do want to be a little bit perfectionist on this one, as I can be. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the night, and hopefully, if you're not leaving right now, I think we are raiding right now. I think we're heading over to this other channel. So, have a good one. All right, so do I have to... Oh, I see. 2 viewers are ready to raid. Okay, in 4 seconds. Then I hit literally raid now. All right, raid now. Does that stop the stream? I think I'm going to just stop the stream. All right, see you later.